Having the game come down to the very last seconds, which is something I have not experienced yet, not in football. I have experienced it in basketball, but I have not experienced it this season in football. So it definitely had me on edge. Before I get into my full recap, I do want to just say welcome back. This is my recap for Georgia Tech versus NC State. I'm Pretty Girl Des with MTMV Sports. And I was going to record and do all the good things that I know we do for y'all, but my credential was different. I could not get on the field after the game, which was kind of weird to me because I usually can get on the field and it was like pregame only, and I didn't know that. So I couldn't do that. And it was 40 degrees outside. It was cold anyway. I didn't want to be down there anyway. I'm just being honest with y'all. So I'm going to give you my recap of the game. The game overall was super duper fun in a way. I love night games in general. So they're always fun to me. I always go into the aspect like it's going to be super duper fun, but it was super duper cold at the same time. But I did not expect NC State to come in to the game and play as competitive as they did, especially defensively. My first time seeing NC State and what they had was when they played Clemson. And obviously, as the season progresses on, and now you're coming toward nearing the end of the football season, you really start to see teams either they have gotten really, really good, they change a little bit, or they're still the same. Now, I will say at the beginning of the game, I definitely thought that NC State was looking very much the same. They were led by their freshman quarterback, CJ Bailey, and I spoke highly of him when he played against Clemson, and I'm going to speak highly of him for this game as well. Georgia Tech coming in, they had like a rotating quarterback situation. So this new quarterback was number 12. Great kid, great athleticism. He definitely has an arm on him. Like he can throw the ball like no other. And then in and out came Haynes King. So I was like, okay, I thought he was injured or something. I didn't know what was really going on. I don't know if it was like, we don't want to put him out there to have him, play and possibly injure himself. They are going to go into a bowl game. I didn't know what exactly was going on. Both offensive teams kind of struggled in their own way. Georgia Tech did dominate the game. And I said this like when I was tweeting out, they did dominate the game because they continued to hold the lead, as they went throughout the game. They continued to be able to make power runs down the field. And again, the quarterback can really throw. So he was able to get some passes down the field. However, they did have a couple quick 3 and outs. They did have some drop passes and incompletes. They did have a couple interceptions. So seeing them, they definitely have some growing pains. And I think that's just with any program, especially on a really, really cold night, though. It's people would like to say that the coldness doesn't make a difference, but I definitely think that it does, especially when it's that cold. Anyway, moving on to, y'all know I love a good box score, and I love to be able to talk stats because stats really show you how well they played on paper, but for me, watching them is a total different aspect. When it comes to the box score for Aaron Philo, he was 19 for 33 with a total of 265 yards. He averaged about 8 yards. He had 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. And then Haynes King came in and he was 3 for 3, 7 yards, total 2.3, 0 TDs, 0 interceptions. So he didn't play long at all. He just hopped in and out. Aaron running the ball. Aaron had 7 carries for 57 yards, averaging 8.1 yards per carry with 1 touchdown. His longest was 18 yards. So he's more of a rushing quarterback, and I feel like that's just becoming the trend and the new way of quarterbacks these days. Like you need to be able to use your feet. You need to be able to run, especially when you need to put the team on your back. So I think that he played a really, really great game. And if he's going to be the next quarterback coming in for Georgia Tech, I think it was really smart to have him play in the game to really get that hands-on experience. I'm not really sure how many other games he's played in, but for him to be in that experience, not only was it cold in an evening game, and it was a good game against an ACC rival. So I think it was really good to have him in there and to see like what he can do. His completion rate does need to increase, but he, I think that's just going to come with getting more comfortable with the offense and really understanding his accuracy and reading the plays down the field. I think it'll definitely improve as he continues to play more and more. I'm going to switch gears now and talk about NC State. As I said before, I was not expecting NC State to be as competitive defensively because against Clemson, they were not a defensive team at all. That you'd be like, oh, the defense is going to hold out a little bit. They were not. Being able to hold them to 23 points until the very last minute in the fourth quarter, I think to me that shows a lot of promise and strength within their team. I'm going to give their props also to the quarterback, CJ Bailey. I'm so impressed with this kid because I've seen the way that he was thrown into a situation where he had to play true freshman, had to come out. He had to play in Death Valley. I saw what he did and how he was growing into being more comfortable with being a quarterback to what he looks like tonight. Was he the most accurate? No. But when he needed to, he put the team on his back and he led the team down the field to really catch them up to even be able to compete with this Georgia Tech team. So I have to commend him, especially, like I said, he's a true freshman. He didn't redshirt, and now he's a true freshman, and he has a certain level of athleticism to him, speed, agility, talent. Like he's really just one of one. And I think that with the proper development and I think with the proper scheme of offense, he will really succeed. He's also a rushing quarterback. He ran 2 big plays, which helped NC State really keep themselves afloat in the game because offensively, they struggled a little bit more than I was expecting them to, especially coming so far into the season. I would have expected them to iron out some of those wrinkles with their wide receivers and their tight ends and the running backs. And something just wasn't connecting. Either it was just the pressure of that Georgia Tech defense and they just weren't ready for it, or they're just overall a pretty young team and they have a lot more to grow and to go in order for them to be more competitive than they were. They were super competitive on defense, but not so much on offense. And I think that if they get it to the point where they don't have to wait until the fourth quarter to really start things up and really heat the pot and really get to the point where they can win games, then they will be so much better off. If they played how they played in that very last 5 to 6 minutes in the fourth quarter, if they played like that even in the second quarter, that would have been a change of the game. The momentum definitely would have switched for them and they would have seen a little bit more success, especially in the red zone. I will say they did have a 2-point conversion that I definitely didn't think they were going to get, and they got it. So it tells me that the plays are there. It tells me that the confidence is there. It tells me that the skill is there. They just have to figure out how to utilize it in the beginning. Earlier. It shouldn't take that long to get warmed up because that's what happens when you come to very last minute, very last second, and then you lose the game by 1 point because you can't make the last winning field goal, especially when it's cold, it's windy. You don't want to leave it up to chance like that. You want to be able to get everything that you can get before you get to those last, 2 minutes in the fourth quarter. I do want to go over CJ Bailey's box score the same way that I did with Georgia Tech. So for CJ Bailey, he was the only quarterback. It wasn't a rotating, wasn't a switch. He played the entire game. He was 17 for 30. Again, not the best that he could be, but that's going to be his working pain right there, that completion. He had 147 yards, averaging 4.9, no touchdowns in terms of throwing, but he did have 3 interceptions. So that right there was, that's where it kind of faltered a little bit. The accuracy, you got to be more accurate than that. But in terms of him having rushing yards, he had 9 carries, 83 yards, averaging 9.2 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. His longest was 31 yards. So although he may not be that great with throwing, maybe he can't read. He's not reading the defense as well as he could be, but he makes up for it with his legs because the boy can run. 3 touchdowns. He made 3 of the 4 touchdowns that NC State had. So again, putting the team on his back, stepping up to be the leader of this team, and really trying to get the job done as a freshman. So I think he's going to be something great. If NC State would have just got going faster, then they would have just been a better team. It would have been in a better position, and they probably would have upset Georgia Tech, in my opinion. Georgia Tech is now 7-4, and NC State is 5-6. So they are under 500 as is looking right now, but lots of promise over there on that team. Okay, so I've talked long enough. If you like this content, make sure you're liking, sharing, and subscribing on all social media platforms at MTMV Sports and Pretty Girls Love Sports, or at PG Love Sports on all social media platforms. Thank you all for watching. I can't wait until I can sit here with you next time. Bye.